Have you guys seen this experiment where you can not only test if the people around you are NPCs, but if you yourself are? Check this out. And if you don't know what an NPC is, basically, in the video game world, it's someone that's not being controlled by a person, just a random computer-generated thing. And in the real world, same thing. Maybe just someone that's not being controlled by a soul. So I heard this experiment on a podcast, and I thought it was kind of crazy until I tried it out myself. And it has to do with apples. And you can probably use any object, but for our purposes, we're going to stick with apples. So there are going to be multiple layers to what I'm going to ask you to imagine. And depending on how far you can imagine it, might just depend on if you're an NPC or not. So with this blank screen, I want you to picture a red apple here. Can you picture a red apple? If you can, great. So far, you're not an NPC. Next, I'd like you to think of that red apple, and in your mind, you can close your eyes if you need to, think of that apple as green. Can you change it to a green apple? Can you see a green apple without looking at it? Now stick with me. We're getting to the good parts here. If you can picture a red apple and then a green apple, great. But here's where a lot of people get stuck, and I'm taking away the image here. I want you to picture that green apple in your mind. And can you go in and can you pick up that apple? Can you manipulate it? Can you move it around? Can you, in your mind, be holding it and then all of a sudden it turns from green to purple? Do you have the ability to do that? Because for me, I could, no problem. I could hold that, I could throw it, I could take a bite of it. Anything I wanted to do with that apple, I could do in my mind. But the shocking part was, as I was listening to this on the podcast, one person, they were stuck. They couldn't do anything but change colors. They couldn't grab it. They couldn't manipulate it. It was stuck there. One person couldn't even change colors of the apple. But I didn't believe this until I tried it on my wife. And my wife, she could change the color. She could go green and red, but she didn't have the ability to manipulate that apple. She couldn't grab that apple. She couldn't throw that apple. I'm juggling this apple. I'm doing all sorts of things with it. But hers is just a stuck image. And I thought that was nuts. I thought just because I had the ability to manipulate things in my mind and control things, that everybody did. But clearly that's not the case. And this leads me down the path of maybe this is why some people can't grasp the topics or the understanding of not living where we've been told we live our entire lives. Because they can't visualize it. They can't think outside the green and red apple. Now, I'm not actually saying my wife is an NPC, but I do think our brains operate differently. I do think some are more right, some are more left, some are right down the middle, and some just don't really choose to think. But try it out, guys, because I found it fascinating, and I would love to hear how you did during this little experiment. Put it in the comments, test it on the people around you, and let me know, because I want to know if I'm in the majority or if I'm in the minority. But something tells me I might be in the minority. But guys, as always, this was all for entertainment purposes. I don't really think my wife is an NPC.
Tyler, can you come here?